Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm excited to get started in today's training. We're going to be talking about women-owned small businesses and really how to maximize our success in there. But before we do, I'm just kind of get my tech all squared away. Before we do, I like giving a tip for those of you showing up early and on time. It's just a way of saying thank you. I really appreciate you doing that because it helps LinkedIn push the word out to more people, letting them know we're live, we're getting started, and we can get more people live into the community, which allows you to meet more folks as we go forward. So my tip for success today is going along those lines of what I love talking about, right? Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. If you don't know this, it's my all-time favorite business book. It's a personal book as well. For personal growth. But the tip out of that book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, is to focus on your circle of influence. Stephen Covey describes these 2 circles we have, this big circle, which has all these things that we're concerned about. An example might be government shutdown. Yesterday, I did training and I was talking about government may or may not shut down. It probably will, right? But that's a circle of concern because we really have no influence. We can't do anything about it. Inside that big circle of concern are things that fit into a circle called circle of influence, our ability to do something about it. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the Women-Owned Small Business Program and some of the dollars around it, et cetera. And a fair amount of what I'm going to talk about is in this circle of concern. We can't really do anything about the broader direction the government is going, right? A lot of people try to do that. They go after this circle of concern opportunities. But I want to give you specific tips that you can influence. So circle of concern or circle of influence tasks that you can do. So as you go through looking at your business or even your personal life, just look at things that are in front of you and that you're dwelling on and go, are they my circle of influence, the inner circle I can do something about, or are they my circle of concern? Okay, that was just a quick tip for those of you showing up early and on time. Thank you for doing that. I'm going to get rocking and rolling here in 2 seconds with my formal training. I'm going to share my screen and we're off to the races. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. In today's training, we're going to be talking about federal agencies that love women-owned small businesses, right? I want you to be able to put your attention towards the agencies that actually care about working with women-owned small businesses and not just getting lucky. And I'll talk about what that means. I wanted to start off, though, with just a couple of facts that should be striking to you and should be a task that you put on your plate right now if you're a woman-owned small business or an economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. And throughout this training, I'm going to use them interchangeably, but mostly I'm just going to say women-owned small business, and it means both WOSB and EDWOSB. All right, so the fact I wanted to start off with is if you go into SAM right now, there's 21,000 small businesses, women-owned small businesses that are registered to sell to the federal government. But only 11,000 of those firms, 11,500 of them, are SBA certified. Recently, in the past year or so, SBA changed it, so there's no more self-certification. For set-asides, you must be an SBA certified woman-owned small business. You can go to connect.sba.gov to do this. But what I struggle with is 50% of the women-owned small businesses out there are not even certified as SBA woman-owned small business. So if somebody looks at your profile within DSBS, the #1 market research tool the government uses, if someone looks in there to try to find a company like yours, they go, oh, I like them. They're not certified. They move on because they're looking for a woman-owned small business, right? So take the time to make sure your company is not self-certified. It's not certified by some external third-party group. It has to be SBA certified if you want to be selling within the federal government and going after set-asides. It's just the way it is now. Same thing with SDVOs, by the way, and veteran-owned small business. Make sure you get in and check your status. All right, so when you think about agencies that love women-owned small businesses, what I mean by loving women-owned small businesses is they actually put their money where their mouth is. They put their set-asides where their mouth is. So I don't want you to believe the hype that you see coming from the SBA and the different administrations. Doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat. They all spout these big numbers about, hey, look how much money is going to women-owned small businesses. But when you see it, you begin to realize it's kind of a hype compared to how much is actually going to women-owned small businesses on purpose and how much of it is going because women are taking it, right? Going and doing whatever it takes to compete outside of the women-owned small business certification or set aside. So we're going to talk about that as we go through. In today's training, I want to go down 4 kind of key points here. First thing is I just want to talk about how much money is actually being awarded to women-owned small businesses. It's important for you and for me and for others for us to deal with facts, not just hearsay that's out there, et cetera. We want to look at, second thing I want to talk about is which agencies actually love women-owned small businesses. Again, I define that in a particular way, and I'll show you when I get there. And then number 3, the third thing I want to talk about is that there's these agencies that will say they love women-owned small businesses, and the SBA will talk about how the federal government loves women-owned small businesses, but the facts are different, right? Women-owned small businesses love the federal agencies and love the federal agency contract dollars, but I don't think that's a mutual love, right? And I'm going to show you that, and I'm describing it that way just to be kind of fun here for a second, but it's a fact, and I'm going to show you the facts. When you look at the facts, you can make strategic decisions for your company going forward. The last thing I want to talk about is just step-by-step walkthrough. I want to walk you through how do I find the information I find? How do you go away from today's training to be able to find it more specifically to your company's needs, your NAICS code or your target department? Maybe inside of your target department, you're trying to say, well, which agencies within HHS? So I'll show you step-by-step how to find the same information I find. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner doing exactly what you're doing in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, or in this case, from research to sales, you will have predictable, repeatable results. And that's what I want for you, to follow A to Z, to have repeatable, predictable results within your company, whether it's revenue or getting in the door or finding set-asides. If you have a process and you follow it, you will have those results that you want. Part of my process for this training is to get you to put your company name into the chat. Put your core competency, just 2 or 3 words, make it easy for us to go, oh, ABC company doing ABC core competency. It makes it really easy. There's companies out there that I can remember what you do, and others who maybe put too many words and it doesn't stick in my mind. You can go to an elevator pitch another day. Right now, inside a chat, you want to make it easy for us to just say hi to you. Right now, when you're in chat, you're engaging in the community with others, which I highly encourage you to do. It's about getting people to know you. And then you take it offline so that they like and trust you, and you can like and trust them. In the chat, though, it's really about getting people to know you. Do me a favor, one other thing, I didn't put it here, but if you're a woman-owned small business or an economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business, if you're working for either one of those, go ahead and put that in the chat. Let us know that you're there. And I'm going to start talking about the dollars. Let's go to town on the reality of the dollars, right? I'm using FY 2022 data because that's the most recent year we have the full year data. And so in FY 2022, $680 billion was contracted to industry. We call this small business eligible because theoretically small businesses are eligible to compete on these dollars. That's different, by the way, from the trillions of dollars that the government spends. Sometimes you hear people talking about trillions. Yes, there's trillions, but those are not contract dollars. Those are not small business eligible. That's like Social Security, for example. You're not going to touch that. So $680 billion was spent in FY 2022. Of that, $158 billion was awarded to small businesses as prime contracts, right? Flat out numbers. Women-owned small businesses had $24 billion, and this is the number that around this range, right, that the SBA loves to talk about. $24 billion was awarded to women-owned small businesses. This is where the federal government starts saying, hey, look how great we are. Women-owned small businesses got that. But when you look at the next number I have here on the chart, less than $1 billion was set aside to women-owned small businesses. That means $24 billion or $23 billion of the $24 billion, the women-owned small businesses just went and took it. That's fine. I want to encourage you to keep doing this, but I also want to teach you how we go and grab more of that. This number here, 841 million, that number should be in the billions. And it drives me nuts when I see the government taking credit for awarding to women-owned small businesses, but the reality is a little different. We're going to talk about that, right? We're going to drive forward a little bit in today's training, and then throughout the continued training as I move forward, I'm going to give you more time to learn about how do you go take it. But I'll tell you a little bit. And then sole source, right? I don't really dwell on sole source. I don't particularly like the idea of sole source as a concept because, unless you're Apple with the iPhone when it first came out, most of us don't have something unique. But if I was an 8A or somebody who could get a sole source, I'd be happy for it. But for women-owned small businesses and pretty much everybody who's not an 8A company, don't even think about sole source. There's not much going on. That number is less important to me. But together with the set-asides, sole source and competitive women-owned small business set-asides, it's about $1 billion out of the $24 billion. One other thing I just wanted to put down here that it's an interesting thing for you to pay attention to. How is the money being spent at different times? And so this graphic that I'm showing you is showing the 12 months of 2022, the fiscal year, right? So it begins with October, November, December of 2021, and then it moves through the first 9 months of 2022. That's the government's fiscal year. You can see right here when they did the bulk of their set-asides. And so they did about 220 million of the 800 million in in October, the last month of the fiscal year, September. You would think I'd be better at picking my months. Anyways, but you can see as they go forward, there's not a lot of traction here. One thing that this tells me, and I haven't looked at these numbers recently, but what this tells me immediately is like right here, $40 million done in October 2022. Set-asides can be driven, and I'll talk about how you can do that in today's training, but I want to see these numbers increase. If you can increase the monthly numbers, the annual number will go up. You never want to try to focus only on your annual goal, right? You set an annual goal and you break it up into months or even weeks. So you're moving it forward. Well, it's the same thing here. How do we identify more opportunities that can be awarded set aside? And I'll give you a quick example. Back when I did this same focus on HubZone, the HubZone program and how poor it was doing for 20 years, we were able to get a $200 million opportunity set aside. It was about a 1 month, I can't remember the details at the moment, but a 1 month turnaround from the time the government asked me to help them to the time that all these HubZones responded, where they set $200 million aside for a HubZone firm. So 200 million, that's one opportunity that would have exceeded whatever is here for set-asides. That's doable, and it's doable for women-owned small businesses. Okay, so that's the dollars at the high level, right? Just understanding about $1 billion is going into the set-aside. And by the way, I'll go show you the facts, like the way I get them, so that you understand that there's real details behind any of this data that we share, and you always want to find the source information. I'm going to walk you right through the source information. So here I want to dive into which agencies really love women-owned small businesses. In my opinion, an agency only loves a woman-owned small business if they're setting aside contract opportunities for women-owned small businesses. If they're not doing that and women happen to be winning in there, it's not the agency loves the women-owned small businesses. It's the women-owned small businesses are squared away enough to go compete at full total small business or full and open. Right? Just because the women small business owners are winning or businesses are winning in an agency doesn't mean that agency loves them. That agency only loves them if they're doing set-asides. That's a really important fact to understand, because then you really begin to see which agencies truly value setting aside opportunities for women-owned small businesses. And right here on this slide, I broke down just a few, the top 10 agencies that are awarding to women-owned small businesses as a set-aside. And it was actually pretty interesting to me. About half of them were surprises. The first three are not, right? Army, Navy, and Air Force. And the Army really is the most small business-friendly spender out there. I knew the Army spent a lot, and I got it. But until I've been doing these trainings on 8A, on SDVO, on women-owned small businesses, I didn't see how much the Army is. But you can see the Army is like 3 times as much as the next closest one, the Navy. But even the Navy and the Air Force, both $60 million out there in set-asides. And that's good, right? But they have a huge spending, and you can go out. NOAA, out of the Department of Commerce, that was huge. I got a customer right now who ironically is targeting NOAA, state, and USAID. And I'm looking at this saying, wow, they're an 8A woman-owned small business. Now it's time to go real double down on these. And so this will be interesting information for them. And I'm assuming they're on the training as well. By the way, let me know in the chat, are you in any of these agencies? Have you seen any women-owned small business set-asides in these agencies that fit for you? Let me know in the chat and let others know that, yes, the Army really is great. And then you can see the graphic, right? Army, Navy, Air Force, NOAA, state, and USAID. And then DISA's down here. DISA just shocks me to my core. They spend so much on behalf of the Department of Defense, but the amount of set-asides are non-existent. 40 million to me is nothing, right? It is nothing for what DISA's budget is. And so when I see something like that, and I know DISA actually is pretty proactive trying to find folks, I feel, and I'm not here to complain about them. I'm here to state facts and then complain about us. I want to give us things we can do to go take opportunities away. But it was pretty surprising to me. The rest of these are just so minimal, they're not even worth noticing. But it is really important to compare this list against your target agencies. Are you targeting an agency that doesn't do any women-owned small business set-asides? If you are, it doesn't mean you should walk away from them, but you sure should not have any expectation of finding women-owned small business set-asides from them. Unless you go drive them, it's not going to happen. And I'll talk about driving them in a minute. Well, speaking of a minute, so let's drive into this. So here, I wanted to give you tips for how you can start driving women-owned small business set-asides. I have many, many other trainings. If you don't know this, I have at least 300 trainings, almost 350 trainings in the last 18 months or so. So these live trainings that we do, and many of them are on how do you drive set-asides for your particular certification. So women-owned small business in particular. But I wanted to give you some specific tips that you can do to start driving set-asides in your target agency. So you don't have to go over to the Army hoping to get something there if that's not really your goal and you want to go into HHS. You know, if I back up really quick, why isn't HHS on here, right? It just really surprises me. And I'm going to look in a second when I show you the data, but it surprises me. But the good news is if they're not on there, it means there's all sorts of room to come up, right? To figure out why are they not getting that. Quick aside, by the way agencies are able to sometimes claim that they're getting the women's goals hit is because they just double count things. And so they'll set something aside to a 8A woman-owned small business. They'll do an 8A set aside and double count it. It's a horrible practice, but it's a reality and it's in our circle of concern. We can't really change that. If we focus on circle of influence, we'll be able to get more set-asides. So the first thing I want you to do is to go talk to the head of contracting activity. Figure out a way to get in and meet these people or meet their staff and talk about what needs of yours are not being met in such a way that you don't set aside opportunities for women-owned small business competition, right? Have that conversation with the head of contracting activity or the KO or the CO, right? KO and CO is contracting officer. If you don't know this, CO stands for commanding officer in the military, so we call them KOs for contracting officers over there. But basically, your contracting officers. Talk with them. Find out why are these not being set aside. Begin to look at opportunities early on, shifting left in the process, and you can influence some of this. Second thing I want you to recommend you do, and this worked very successful to the tune of billions of dollars more going to hub zones. When hub zone firms started working together, and there's a sources saw it or an RFI coming out, 10 or 20 companies would respond at least. We used to do these things called daily set-asides where we would bring people together and say, here's an opportunity, here's some of the details, who's going after it, and let's try to push for it to go small business. So number 4, where I say ask for a woman-owned small business set-aside, inside of your response, you would have a particular paragraph saying, please consider setting this aside to women-owned small business. By the way, pro tip, don't ask for it to be set aside to woman-owned small business or 8A or woman-owned small business or SDVO. Pick one. If you pick more than one, then you have not asked for anything, right? It's like my parents. One was a Republican, one was a Democrat. I'm like, why are you voting? You guys are crossing each other out. Pick one and go with it. And in here, you want to have 10 other, 20 other women-owned small businesses, in particular women-owned small businesses who have some success in your target agency. Now you start responding and you're saying, hey, can we get an opportunity pushed aside? This is what the KOs need. They don't have any conspiracy against setting things aside to women-owned small businesses. Generally, when they don't do set-asides, it's because we smalls or we women-owned small businesses are not showing up to the competition. And so if we show up to the competition, we give them the ammunition they need to be able to set stuff aside for small businesses or women-owned small businesses. And that's what I mean by 2.1 here, where I say no such thing as the rule of 2. We all get caught up sometimes with there's a rule of 2. If 2 women-owned small businesses show up or 2 8As or whatever, then you got to set it aside. No, they don't. They do whatever they want. But there's no reason for them to do rule of 2 when it's sources sought and only 2 people are showing up. What they really mean by rule of 2 is that I need to know at the very end of the acquisition lifecycle, and I'm going to make an award, I have 2 very qualified women-owned small businesses I can award to. In order for that to happen, they need to have 5 or 8 proposals that are eligible, not disqualified, but eligible, but not winners or something. It's in order for them to see that. In order for them to expect that they're going to get 5 or 8 responses to a proposal, they need to know they're going to get 20 or so RFIs or 30 or 40 sources sought responses, right? And so this is why you want to build this team. You don't want to coordinate your response content. You just want to coordinate and say, hey, team, let's all respond to this one. You guys do it your way. We'll do it our way. We're going to compete, but let's all respond and ask for it to go women-owned set aside. When you do that, you push the competition from 300,000 businesses that are in the federal market down to those 11,000 women-owned small businesses that are certified with SBA. I know I'm going at a fire hose. You can always watch the replay. One of my favorite things about when I was in the Rangers in the Army, and it was so like growing up. I grew up in a house with 10 kids, right? 12 people in the house. And, there's always these things kids do. We're like, oh, my family can beat up your family or beat your family at basketball or something. Like, good luck. There was 10 of us, right? And when I got to the Rangers, one of the things we learned right away was that there's the only fair fight is when you win. We're not here to box. We're not in a boxing ring and it's like, hey, we're following rules. No, if it's a battle, it's a battle. And here, I want you to think of this like a battle. Find as many women-owned small business compatriots and go after those set-asides. Drive them. The contracting officers will be positively responding when many women-owned small businesses are responding to RFIs, asking for them to be set aside. Number 5, I said push for NAICS codes, right? So women-owned small businesses, for some reason, are just absolutely disadvantaged in the fact that they can't compete on every NAICS. That is just crazy to me. But it's a reality. It's my circle of concern. So make sure if you've got an opportunity you want to go after, but it can't be set aside because it's a different NAICS, push for the NAICS to be changed. If you get the NAICS code to be changed, then you can now make it a set aside. If it's a NAICS code that's not in the women-owned small business program arena, then it can't be set aside. So just push for that. And NAICS codes can be pushed all day long. All you have to do is provide some rationale. And I have training in the past where you can learn how to have that conversation with the contracting officer. They don't care. As long as you give them a good reason, a good rationale, they'll be like, okay, sounds good. And then engage your small business professionals, the SBA PCRs. These are the people who have kind of oversight. Let them know you're really interested in going after opportunities, and not just one of you. Again, take that team of 10 or 20 and get them all to reach out to the, especially small business professional, and say, we're really trying to see more set-asides. What can we do? Not what can the agency do, but what can we do to drive more set-asides? Right here, if you look at this, I've got a training on our website. If you come out here, you can find this, but this is a woman-owned small business focus page. And thanks to Cecilia who got this page for us. But there's all sorts of other training, why WOSBs fail, how to make $1 million, how you can find and meet federal buyers. So a lot of training in here. Go take this training on our website. And somebody throw that into the chat right now. Okay, so let me go really quick to, oops, hold on. I'm learning to use PowerPoint for the first time. I only got a few minutes left, but I want to show you how I get the data that I get, right? This is really important. So you come into USA Spending. If you're not familiar with it, this is a graphical interface or a really good interface to the FPDS data. These words, by the way, if I'm saying them, they should not be a surprise. If you're in this call and you're in the federal market, you need to learn the basics of SAM and FPDS and DSBS, et cetera. I have all sorts of training. Everybody has all sorts of training on this stuff. But USA Spending is a great way to go in and look at data. So you come to the main site, you hit start searching. Somebody throw the URL, by the way, into chat for me, would you please? Okay, so I'm at the search. Here's what I want to do to find the data from 2022. Over here, I'm going to say I want FY 2022 data, right? The next thing, let me zoom in a teeny bit. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to say the award type is contract. I don't care about grants or loans or any of that other stuff. The only other thing I wanted to see at the moment was coming down to type of set-asides. I'm going to drop down in here. And here, I don't want sole source, but I want economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. And at the bottom is woman-owned small business. So now I've set my criteria for the search that I want. I hit submit search. Let me zoom back in for a second. So the results come back to me pretty quickly. If you're not familiar with these tabs, come in and explore, right? There's all sorts of training in here. I can train you, but there's training on this tool already that's just under the help and you can find it. But these tabs, you want to understand them. If you click on time, this is where I go. This is how I just got the data that says 809 million was set aside to women-owned small businesses, right? That's crazy. That's just crazy. And then if you click on category, you can see the agencies that are getting it, right? And I click on sub-agencies, and I know I'm moving fast, but that's the whole reason I make the replay available immediately. Not later, but immediately after this, you watch the replay. But here's the agencies that are doing it. You can go to the next 10 if you wanted to. And this is where, some of the HHS ones start popping up. It's great to see US Transcom out there. But let me show you one other piece of data. This is set aside, right? I'm going to go down here. I'm going to get rid of those two set asides I just did. And I want to show you this other one, which is the part where the government claims that it's going to women-owned small business, but it really is not. So here I'm saying, just show me women-owned small business and economically disadvantaged. I don't care about the JVs at the moment because to me, that's different. But if I come in here, I can see the agencies. And let me come back here really quick. So right here, this is the number that's the kind of what I call the false number. 24 billion is being awarded to women-owned small businesses as prime contractors. Yes, but it wasn't because the government set it aside. This is an important thing to understand. There's a lot of room for women-owned small businesses to be able to have success. But if you understand the data, you can begin to have the conversations with the agencies that you're trying to pursue. Let me just come back because I know I'm tracking on time here. I just want to wrap up with some things you can remember. Again, go to our website and find that women-owned small business page. There's a lot more training. But set-asides mean that an agency loves you. So you want to make sure you're looking for agencies that are doing set-asides or they're open to doing set-asides in FY 2024. And the way you do that is to respond to more sources sought. As a group, 10, 20 women-owned small businesses respond to those sources sought and encourage the government, give the contracting officer what they need to be able to feel confident that women-owned small businesses will respond to the RFP. That's the whole tie in there. And the last thing is, I was just saying this, right? But become a USAspending.gov SME or subject matter expert. These are your tools. Learn how to use them. It'll help guide your strategy as you move forward. As you can see from that page, we had a lot of women-owned small business training, but we do training every single day. Got 3 more lined up for this week. If you get value out of the training that I do, please become a sustaining member. There's a lot of extra value you get within the chamber when you become a sustaining member. But most importantly, you're helping us continue doing this for everybody out there. If you're a woman-owned small business or an 8A small business, if you're looking to go to the next level, push into an agency, we have a BD Accelerator workshop. It's a 90-day workshop, and I'm only offering it one more time by the end of the year, and I will not offer it again going forward. I'm moving on to something that allows me to work with a lot more people than directly one-on-one. But if you're interested in getting my help and my team's help on pushing it into an agency and really understanding how to move forward, and you're already doing traction, this is not for people who are brand new to government contracting or doing less than $1 million, for example, just reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll be happy to talk to you. For everybody, remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is coming back to training next week and tomorrow. I'll see you in tomorrow's training.